everyone. I'm Alvin Strane, and I am the author of The Jersey. And I got all suited up today with a replica jersey of the Providence Graves, which plays a critical role in the storyline, G for Graves. Thank you so much in advance for all that you have done thus far. To all of my ambassadors, thank you so much.
Let me say this. I should probably introduce you. Okay. Okay. And this is Terrence White, okay, for everybody. And Terrence is a genealogist, and he's a pretty darn good one. So let me ask you this. I know the date was 1988. Was that the first time you embarked on this journey with the?
That's right. Yes, that's correct. Yes.
And what actually took you in that direction?
It's kind of an involved story. I'll try to make it as simple as I know how.
Well,
I was researching my own paternal family, the White family,
okay.
and I had in my hands a document that had been prepared by one of my long deceased cousins from many decades prior to my coming along on the scene. And this document spoke about one of my great uncles with the last name White. And it said that a town called Whitesburg, Georgia, had been named for him.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, I wanted to follow up that clue, see if there was any truth to it or not. So I did some considerable research around the subject of the town of Whitesburg, Georgia. It happens to be in Carroll County, which is just west of Metro Atlanta.
Okay.
There's the University of West Georgia at Carrollton. It's there now, close to Whitesburg in Carrollton.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it turns out Whitesburg was in fact founded, and originally most of it was owned by one of my ancestors, but he wasn't a white. His name was Gilbert.
Gilbert. Okay.
It's just a total odd coincidence that I happen to have a connection to the place anyway.
Okay. All right.
But it turns out that the town of Whitesburg was not, in fact, named for one of my relatives. It was named for Captain Andrew Jackson White, who turns out was the father of William Edward White and his two sisters. Well, I did not know that at the time. Only thing I knew about Captain Andrew Jackson White was that he had been a railroad president here in Georgia. He had been a land speculator, a real estate speculator, and you know, a lot of money passed through his hands. He had a lot of money and lost a lot of money, and so I just was focusing on him initially, and I tracked him down to his final place of residence after the American Civil War, which happened to be Milner in Lamar County near Barnesville, and so that's where I ended up focusing on. It was right there in Milner. So I wanted to know more about Captain White, so I went down to Milner on the date in question that you saw on the letter and the notes that I made.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was researching Captain White,
Mm-hmm.
thinking erroneously thinking at the time that he was related to me. Well, I managed to rule that out. I figured out he's not related to me at all that I can find. So, but I did managed to research his ancestry quite a ways back. Turns out he's a distant relative of George Washington.
Okay. Well,
But then while I was there, I found out all about his, mulatto former slave mistress that was known in the community as Aunt Hannah White. Found out about her. Supposedly she was a great beauty, according to the two old people I spoke with down at Milner Baptist Church in 1988. They remembered her from when they were very young themselves, and she was very old, and they said she was a great beauty when she was younger. That was what they had been told.
wow.
And the community at Milner Baptist Church, of course, this was in Jim Crow South. This was during segregation.
Mhm.
They nonetheless allowed her to attend church there, and she would sit all by herself in the very back row. But they allowed her to attend church out of respect for her partner, Captain White, who was a great benefactor, financial benefactor of the church. So because of that, they allowed her to attend, and she attended till the day she died. And Now, I found out all of that from talking to Mrs. Domingos and one other gentleman named Jack Morgan. The two of those, Ms. Domingos and Mr. Morgan, were the two people that I met that actually had seen and spoken with and remembered talking to William Edward White's mother, Hannah.
And what started me on my journey, which started in 2004, I was in Manhattan, New York. I picked up a Wall Street Journal, and the Wall Street Journal was from January 30th, 2004. And in that Wall Street Journal, top left-hand column, was an article, and probably not going to be able to pick this up on Zoom, but the article was entitled Mystery of Baseball. Was William White Game's first black? So I read that article, and I'm an ex-professional baseball player, and a lot of people are going to be able to Zoom know that. And I'm all kind of dressed up in my vintage Providence Grays uniform today, just for the event. Okay. So in reading that article, what I found fascinating, one, that as an ex-professional baseball player and somewhat of a amateur historian, I said, who in the heck is this guy? I've never heard of this guy. I've heard of Jackie Robinson, the Fleetwood brothers, several other Negro League players, but never this gentleman. So, but instantaneously, after reading the article, in my own mind's eye, I established more of a movie scene in my head, a beginning, a middle, and the end of this book, okay? And the book turned out to be The Jersey, okay? And it was really in my mind's eye, and I kept for so many years, now of course it's 2020, for all those years, 16 years now, I would put it down, pick it back up, do a chapter or two, but it was always the plot line never really changed over those 16 years. And it was just a riveting story. And then as I started getting deeper into your research, and then you and I had several conversations, I found out it was a fascinating story on many elements, okay? And then you haven't seen this yet. I think this is your post-high school photo. In the book here, I have designated to you with your article here, I will get to it. I should have had this marked out. This is post-high school. So there, there you are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for sparing me the embarrassment. Thank you.
No. Everybody, hey, he's a handsome dude here. Okay, but he did for all of you. When you get the book and you've read the story, please take the time to read Terrence's article here. It is riveting, and everyone that I did a post reading of the book for me, and I've got some really interesting things on the back side of the book as to the comments on folks who have read it. They were all intrigued by the true life of this individual and the family. Okay, so Terrence, if you would kind of give them. Now, I know you've indicated that this pretty much in 1988 you paid a visit to the town. You've attended to Milner Baptist Church. I will tell you, when I went there, you'll get a kick out of this. So I had to talk my 19-year-old grandson into traveling with me from Conyers, Georgia, where I live. Milner, Georgia is about 50 miles away. So my initial conversation with my grandson, Ray Jr., I said, Ray, I need your help. He says, what, Papa? I said, I need you to travel with me to Milner, Georgia. I'm doing research for my book. He said, where in Milner, Georgia? I said, we're going to the cemetery. He says, oh, no, I don't think I really want to do this. I said, no, I need your help. You like photography. I need you to go with me. So we head out to Milner, Georgia. We get to the cemetery. It's a beautiful day. And as you know, that cemetery is huge. I mean,
yes.
It's huge. So we park the car. There's a gentleman that's doing landscaping, African-American gentleman. He says, hey, I'm writing a book, doing some research on it, and we're looking for the gravesite of a gentleman that who was a slave, mulatto kid that went to Brown University, played baseball, played in Major League games. And the guy looked at me and said, geez, he says, I'm not too comfortable with that. I'm not too certain, but you're certainly welcome. If anything you can find out there, just go have at it. He said, but if you give me your number, I'll have the cemetery director call you. So I gave him my number, and my grandson and I just went out to the far reaches of the cemetery, and you've been there. And I want to say stumbled, we came across Captain A.J. White's, tombstone.
Yes.
And we thought we had struck gold. I've got pictures, I'm down on my knees with my arm around the headstone, and my grandson's there. We just struck gold.
Yes.
Captain A.J. White was the baseball player, because in Tom Morris's article, he kind of led us in that direction. All right. So in any event, way back home, I get this phone call from the cemetery director. Nice dude. And he says, hey, I understand that you fellows are out at the cemetery and you're looking for the gravesite of the ball players. He says, I'm very familiar with that story. I said, but, and you may have come across Captain A.J. White's headstone. I said, yeah, we did. He says, oh no, that's the dad. Okay. And he says, not too certain about, where the son was buried. He said, but I will tell you that his partner, his mistress, Hannibal White, petitioned the church after he passed, that when she died, she wanted to be buried next to him.
That's right.
And that petition was denied. And I think your research showed that. And she was buried in an unmarked grave.
I already knew about that.
And your research shows that. And you did an even deeper dive to say, well, do you know the plot? And the Mrs. Dominguez apparently did not know. Grass had grown over it. So no one knows. She's buried in the Negro Cemetery. Or
that's correct.
The cemetery.
Yeah.
Call it cemetery. So, but the cemetery director said, hey, I can help you out. I said, how's that? He says, I'm gonna send you an email that a site that I think you can go to and perhaps find your ball player. I said, great. So when I got home, got on my computer, he sent me the email, and the email said, check out this website, findagrave.com. Findagrave.com.
Yes.
I said, wow.
Yes.
So, but this is the problem, Terrence, this is the problem. I only knew that he played in that baseball game in 1879. So he was a junior, so he had got to Brown in 1877. That's all I knew. So then I said, well, to operate that site, you've got to know the name, and you have to know either the year they were born or the year they passed. I knew neither. But I said, well, he's a junior in college, should make him about 20. So I backed up, and I think he was born in either 1859 or 1860. 60. Voila. He came up. I got the bio. I got where he was buried in Chicago at the Elmwood Cemetery. I got the whole schmoz. So now I want to take
it. I have to interrupt you here for a moment. Forgive me. Would you like to take a guess who it was that created that Find a Grave page?
Did you?
You're looking at him.
Get out of here. I
created that Find a Grave page.
Well, I want to tell you something. You need to take credit for that, because that is incredible. I know where my grandfather was buried, but I just wanted to check it out. They had my grandfather's gravesite and everything. So yeah.
I was in the process of my long, extensive email communication with Stephen Fatsis and Peter Morris of SABR, Society of American Baseball Research.
Yes.
Yeah, I was in the middle of my corresponding with them, and I sent an email to the guys, and I said, I'm going to create a Find a Grave page for him, because I've searched and searched and searched, and I can't find one, and he deserves one.
Great.
And they said, well, I had his death certificate, I had the location of the burial, so I was ready to go to create the page and put everything on it. And they sent one of the replies they sent back. They said, please hold off until we publish the Slate article,
Right.
because we don't want to spill the beans to everybody. And I said, that's fine, I'll wait for you. And so I did. And then as soon as the article came out, the Slate article in February 2014, that's when I went ahead and published the Find a Grave page for him.
Wow. Yeah, because the article, quite honestly, and you well know this article in 2004 was somewhat misleading, indicating that the ball player was buried in Milner, Georgia at that cemetery.
Yeah.
Not the case.
Yes.
But I got to tell you something, that was really something. And in the book, you're going to see that there's photographs. My wife and I made a trip to Chicago, went to the Elmwood Cemetery. This is another little funny thing. I kind of was doing my due diligence, and the young lady at the counter, she pulls out this book. It's about this thick, and she gets to these pages going back to the 18 when he was born. I think he was born 1860, and then he died in 1937. So in 1937, she gets to those pages, and she finds his plot and everything. Well, while she's writing it down, I'm kind of looking over to see who paid for that plot, because I'm still looking for family members. Like your research was looking for family members. And I think one of the articles, I don't know if it was attributed to you or not, one of the articles talked about a great-great-granddaughter and her comments relative, hey, did you think your great-great-grandma knew that he perhaps was mulatto, part black, da-da-da-da-da, and her comments were somewhat of a negative nature, like, yeah, if she'd have known it, she'd have kicked him out or something.
Yeah, that was the 2014 Slate article that I contributed to. Yeah.
Oh, well, hey, I'm talking to the author. So now I can't remember the individual's name. Did you ever come up with any other family members of the sisters or Edward White?
Well, he had those two sisters, and they were also sent up north to go to school, and I can only assume that they went to Brown also. The only thing I've managed to find, and I haven't really spent a lot of time to try to research them, mainly due to lack of time, not lack of interest by any stretch, but simply due to lack of time. But the only thing I have found so far is that one of those sisters definitely was at the Quaker boarding school in Providence, Rhode Island, at the same time that William Edward was there prior to enrollment at Brown.
Okay.
So that's the closest I've come to tracking either of those two sisters. After that, they just disappear. I couldn't find either one of them in any of the censuses. So maybe they changed their names.
Well, that's
I don't know. I don't know what to tell you at this point.
And let's say this, I followed the census as you have. I followed the census of 1910 and 1920 for William Edward, okay, and how he was listed as being white, and his school records at Brown. I've communicated with Brown. I've also communicated with the NCAA baseball for his baseball promise, because let me ask you something. In my research, I was looking at why would an individual who obviously was passing, played at Brown in 1879, left the university in 1880 without a degree, and that puzzled me. Being an ex-baseball player, it's in your veins. If you play, it's something that drive for competition. You want to play. Why would he just leave the university, one, without getting a degree, and after playing on a championship team? I don't know. I sense my curiosity got the best of me on that. Okay.
We went back and forth on that a lot. Peter Morris and myself and Stephen Fatsis, when they were putting together the Slate article,
right.
We discussed that quite extensively, and we're all puzzled about it too.
Right.
We speculated and said maybe he got found out. while he was a student there. Um, everybody has seen the photo of him with his team, the team
Right.
members.
Right. I got that one. I got that one.
He does clearly have a tanned looking skin. Yeah, that's the photo. Yeah.
Yeah.
He does clearly have a tanned looking skin, so he would have probably looked, maybe Native American or something like that, Mexican maybe, but I'm not to disparage anybody by any stretch, but he would have looked a little different.
Well,
But
in the book, I kind of give it a little flair there relative. It is a black and white photo that has been colorized. So
yes,
he is a slightly darker hue. Okay.
yes,
I
yes.
kind of lean on that. But what was intriguing, I did had conversation with Brown as well as with the NC2A. They could not confirm, and this is one thought I had. They could not confirm as a result of him playing in that one major league game that he lost his collegiate eligibility and left because he couldn't play baseball.
Oh, well, maybe that's it.
That. But they confirmed everything else. He was on the roster for their championship team in 1879. But how strict the rules were for professionals, although there's no evidence he got paid. The other intriguing thing about that is the individual that played first base in the next game, in the next game was a guy by the name of Jim O'Rourke.
Yes, I know the name.
Hall of Famer.
Yeah, that's right.
Hall of Famer. So it's really some intriguing things about the baseball.
God only knows what William Edward White could have done if he could have pursued that as a career, because he was very good.
Yeah.
If you've read the reviews, there were reviews on several of the national papers all around the country that mentioned him by name and said he played flawlessly. He was clearly very talented.
Yeah, fielded 12 ground balls, got one for 4. But let me ask you something. Let's talk a little bit about your article. And you talk about him, but then you get into a really interesting discussion relative to an individual in that time frame, obviously passing as white, okay, having to work through society, and you really get into the mindset of what people at that time would have had to gone through. What intrigued you about that part of your article?
Well, it's personal. It's personal. I have personal reasons for that. It's nothing that I'm ashamed of by any stretch, but I am gay, so I have lived that.
Okay.
I have been in the closet when I was younger. I have felt the shame and the guilt and the fear of being found out.
Okay.
So it's very personal, very personal.
Wow.
So that's how I can identify with you.
Well,
that's how I can identify with you.
Hey, you took it in a deeper discussion, but I got to tell you something. I've got a second book I'm doing, okay, that is kind of like streaming off of the first book. So some of the characters get a lot more play, okay. It is fascinating when I've told individuals, talk my book with individuals, hey, I'm writing this book. This is kind of my plot line. What do you think? Da, 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 da. Some of the impressions I got were really kind of intriguing in that when I said, as a mulatto, he probably was fair skinned and he was able to blend into society and take advantage of the white privileges. Okay.
Yes.
And some of the reaction I got, at least from some African-American folks, is like, wow, the guy kind of like turned his back on his own people, da, 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 da. And my conversation was, hold up. Okay, it's 1870-ish, okay? The proclamation has been signed. However, okay, if you had the choice, let's just say if you had the choice, and I pose this question. Okay, I'm at Brown University, all right? I leave Brown, one of two things can happen. I can go back to the plantation and probably be the house nigger or pick cotton, or I can maybe blend in to a society that will allow me to take advantage of some white privilege. What would you do? Why, hell, in all cases, like, voila. And but
on the other hand, you never see your family ever again.
Well,
you have to start a completely new family.
your article is just riveting. When you get into that, you just got to make all cuts. And I kind of touch on that lightly, but that is so critical. You just, and be very careful about a misstep. A slight misstep will expose you. Okay. So
Yes.
that, you know, I let's say this. Although fictional, the book, The Jersey, has multiple levels on it. Okay. I deal with the fact that he left home for better education. Obviously, his dad thought a lot of him, and also I think she was, yes, the mistress, but I think there was a higher relationship that I think they had. And your research kind of tells, you know, she was respected in the community, you know, not totally ostracized. But I think the relationship the two of them had, that they wanted best for their kids. And I didn't know that he never married. Captain TJ, he never married. Wow. Wow.
Just so you know, I'm getting a notice on my screen saying my internet connection is unstable, so it may kind of fade in and out.
No, you've been solid so far. Been solid so far. Yeah.
But yes, they never married, and Mrs. Sally Domingos told me when I was interviewing her in 1988, she said, of those 3 children that Captain White sent up north to Providence, Rhode Island to blend in and pass, only one of them ever came back to visit their mother. It was the youngest daughter, and she only came back one time.
One time.
One time. William Edward White and his other sister, they never saw their mother ever again, or any of their other relatives back in Georgia. Never again.
Never again. Wow.
That's sobering.
Oh, no question.
When you think about that.
No question. Yeah. No question. And you do.
That's sobering.
An excellent job in the article talking about that in society as a whole. Okay. And how people who appear to be different or not different, but they're just humans.
Yes.
People. Okay. And it is, well, let's say this. I am so privileged to have had the opportunity to meet you, to incorporate your article in here, and hopefully I didn't, let's say, extend to the point of blemishing what you wrote, but I think the two of them blend very nicely, because this guy, you know, the other thing I wanted to say is this. 1937, okay, and this may go to the article 2014. He slipped on a curb, broke his hip, died of hypothermia a few weeks later in Chicago, okay? But I think there was evidence at that time that
it was actually blood poisoning, septicemia.
Yeah, that perhaps maybe he was on Skid Row or was on hard times. Did your research uncover any of that?
Not my research. This was the research of Peter Morris and Stephan Fatsitz. They found the Chicago city directories for several years in the 1920s, and also the death certificate itself, I believe, if I'm remembering right. But one of those, at least one of those Chicago city directories that has him listed, it has him at an address called McQuinn's Peerless Hotel, and it was a 25-cent a night flop house. That was his address. That's where he was living. This, of course, was after he had left his wife and family, and he was out on his own. We don't know why. We don't know why. Yeah, but this is a really sad life. He had his schooling paid for at Brown.
Right.
By a father who clearly loved him.
Right.
Yet he left after only 1 year.
Why is that?
Yeah, and then he did not complete his second year, if I'm remembering right. So, and then he ends up marrying and having another family, which was, by all accounts, a wonderful family.
Right.
He ends up losing that too. We don't know why, for whatever reason.
Right.
But his granddaughter, I think her name was Mrs. DeAngelis. She had no idea that he had any degree of African blood in him at all. None.
Right.
So clearly that did not get passed down in his grandchildren.
On
So,
paper, on paper. It got
on
passed
paper.
down. It's in the genes.
We just have no idea why these tragedies kept happening to him. We have no idea. We can only speculate.
Right, right.
But
Incredible.
it's a very sad life and a very compelling story. And I'm very glad that you have taken the step toward getting it better known, more publicized.
Well, that part, the fictional part is as and I don't want to give too much away to the readers, but we do give honor where honor is due. I'll just say that, okay? Because
Yeah.
to be the first of anything, to be the first slave, and to be the first person of descent, African American descent, is a first. But in doing so, I was very careful to not diminish the accomplishments of Jackie Robinson, because Jackie Robinson accomplished.
Well, and you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right, because he clearly did. Jackie Robinson clearly did. He did a first. He clearly was the first one that gained widespread recognition.
Right.
And you know, the honor and the glory goes to him, because it took great courage to do what he did.
Yeah, no question.
William Edward White, on the other hand, and there is considerable debate about whether he should be accepted as the first.
Mhm.
But regardless of what your opinion about him is on that score, there's still the fact that William Edward White played his game at Brown for the Providence Grays almost entirely incognito. He was under the radar.
No question.
So he became the first really almost by accident and almost by default.
Mhm.
He did not really intentionally set out to do that. He wasn't trying to break a color barrier. He wasn't trying to take credit for anything. Quite the contrary.
Right.
He was just being himself and playing a very good game, and he was showing the talent that God had blessed him with. And that's all it was.
Yeah, right. No question.
So absolutely, Jackie Robinson deserves everything there. Yeah.
No question. No question.
And even the Fleetwood brothers. Yes.
Well, let's say this. It has been a true pleasure to meet you face to face, if you want to call this. And I owe you a big time dinner. And whether that's going to be in Georgia or Michigan, but I'm going to make it a date, and we're going to get out, have dinner, and you'll meet my twin brother. He's a baseball enthusiast as well.
Well, we'll have a lot to talk about, and I'll give you a tantalizing hint of something to come. And this will be what I close out on. I come from a baseball family, a baseball playing family, believe it or not. I did not do so myself. I can't hit the side of a barn no matter how hard I try. So I'm totally uncoordinated, can't do it. But my great grandmother, Alexander, Lily Alexander was her name before marriage. Her oldest brother played for the minor leagues out in Texas.
Okay.
And this would be 1890s, first decade of the 20th century, so 1910s. In 1902, he took part in a record-breaking game for the Corsicana Oil City Oilers. That was the name of the minor league team he played for. In 1902, and it's in the history book, it's in the record book. You look up that famous game in 1902 with Corsicana, the Oil City Oilers, and you'll find him listed in there.
Uh-huh.
They called him Alec Alexander. That was the name that he went by when he played.
Uh-huh.
Alec Alexander, and this is Corsicana, Texas, the Oil City Oilers. And the record-setting game, it's in the history books because there were the final score of the game. They won by such a lopsided score that it made the history books. It was something like 102-0 or something like that.
Alex Alexander
played for the major leagues.
Oh.
He played for the major leagues. He played for the St. Louis Browns, and he also played for the New York Yankees. 1912. His name was Walt Alexander.
Walt Alexander.
Walt Alexander. Walt Alexander. That was his son.
Uh-huh.
He only played for about 3 years, but he played for the Browns and for the Yankees.
Okay.
He would have been a first cousin to my grandmother.
Yeah. Super.
I come from a baseball family.
All right.
Anyway, I see that you're obviously a big baseball enthusiast, so I wanted to let you know, yeah, I am too.
Oh, I tell you, and what would really be a treat, the manager of the Houston Astros, Dusty Baker. Dusty is a good friend of mine. I recruited him. My brother and I recruited him to go to college, but he decided to sign with the within the Braves, and we're friends now for over 40 years or plus. And if we ever presented, you're in the city, I'm in the city, and the Astros are in the city, we're gonna go to a ball game. I got the books on order, the jersey. Yours will be hand autographed and got to you. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time. This has been great.